A Shot in the Dark by Silverpup. Chapter 46. We're going with you, she stated quietly as she folded her hands in her lap to hide the way they were trembling. Lord Elrond looked up from his book and raised a single fine brow.
Oh, may I ask why?
You know why, she accused without ever raising her voice. It was your vision that you shared. It is your friend who wrote to us of this hobbit and his other life. I must know for myself if this holds any truth. Lord Elrond's calm expression never wavered.
Do you plan to bring Estelle?
She nodded. Yes. I would like to see how he takes to this hobbit and his dwarfs.
You plan to do more than that,
Lord Elrond said gently, reading her as easily as ever. She flinched, but still kept her head held up high. Correct. If this hobbit consents, then I would like him to foster Estelle until he reaches manhood. Lord Elrond's grey eyes darkened into the color of iron.
Do you really think that is wise? Rivendell has been his home for a long time. In many ways, it is the only home he has ever known. Do you really wish to rip him away from all of that?
If it is what's best for him, then I shall do so, she replied, digging her nails into the soft flesh of her palms to keep them from shaking. She was not scared of Lord Elrond, and she knew he would never hurt her, but he still intimidated her very much. He was a highly respected lord among the elves, and he held more power than she ever would. That power was what both drew her to Rivendell and made her flinch away when she met his eyes. Lord Elrond's eyes remained steely.
And do you not think he would be fine here, with me? Have I not done enough for the both of you? I have watched over and cared for that boy as if he were one of my own sons. Losing him will hurt just as badly as a sword to my heart.
She was not moved. I will always be grateful for what you have done for my son and me, she acknowledged, tilting her head down slightly in submission. I will never be able to repay such a kindness, even if I were to live 1,000 years. But do not think that your feelings matter more to me than the well-being of my son. I have sacrificed much for him, and I will sacrifice much more to ensure he grows into the man he is meant to be. Lord Elrond's gaze did not waver, but she could see how stiff the corner of his lips had become. Besides, she continued, raising her eyes from his lips back to his eyes, if I can watch my son grow to love you more than I, then you can handle watching him leave. Lord Elrond's eyes widened before his whole face softened.
My lady, you know that is not true. Estelle loves you very much.
I do not doubt that he loves me, she reassured, nodding. But he does not love me most. You hold that place in his heart. He had nothing to say to that because they both knew it was true. I know that taking him away from you and Rivendell will hurt him, she added, straightening her spine and forcing herself to stand taller as if it would make her seem like the strong woman she pretended to be. But that is a hurt he must learn. We cannot shelter him forever. He must learn to stand strong on his own.
And you believe that this hobbit will teach him that?
Lord Elrond questioned quietly. She shook her head. I will not know until I meet him for myself. But if he can teach him this strength, then I would have him share it with Estelle. Lord Elrond stared at her for a long time. When he finally spoke again, it was with a tone of resignation.
I understand. I will bring you with us when we depart for Erebor.
She bowed her head in gratitude. My thanks, Lord Elrond. I will explain everything to Estelle tonight so that he may say his goodbyes. This will also allow him to have someone to blame for taking him away from his home. It is the least I could do for you and him. Lord Elrond made a noise of protest in his throat.
You are too hard on yourself, my lady. You do not need to take on such burdens to prove yourself. You are the strong and wise woman to endure all that you have. Never doubt that.
Though she knew it was meant to be a compliment, she couldn't help but find it more amusing than flattering. My lord, you are far too kind in your flattery, she said, the corner of her lips twitching into a small smile. But I am no fair lady or wise woman or a battle maiden. I am simply a woman who is trying to raise her son into a decent man. Ah, there it is, Beorn mumbled as he swung his legs out of the bed and began to limp to the sobbing of it. No, no, come here, Bunny. Come along, come sit with us. These rooms are cold, so we've been sitting together to stay warm. Liar! You two just been sleeping as a group as we did on the road. Thariel deadpan, proving that just because she lost her sight didn't mean she lost her intuition. Beorn rolled his eyes as he gently led Bilbo to the bed and helped him up with his single hand. Well, that too. Bard, pass me your quilt. The bunny needs something to dry his eyes.
Why does it have to be my quilt?
The man muttered even as he handed it to the shapeshifter.
Use your own.
It's too far for me to reach, Beorn replied as he forced Bilbo's hands away from his face to wipe his cheeks. There, much better now. You look better when you're smiling, Bilbo. So please stop crying. Bilbo shook his head viciously and then immediately regretted it as he ended up making himself dizzy.
I can't help it. Look what was done to all of you. This is all my fault.
Bard snorted and pinched the hobbit's ankle, making him yelp.
Would you stop being stupid for a moment? I could have sworn you were smarter than this.
It's the dwarves. He spent so much time with him that he's picked up their bad habits like brooding pointlessly, Tariel said, nodding knowingly.
Oh, yes, because elves never mope about or write ballads about how hard it is being beautiful and living forever,
Bard said. Soto, the elf squeezed his injured thigh again. How can you be so calm about this? He wondered as he watched Bard retaliate by pulling on what was left of Tariel's long hair.
I can't.
Beorn smiled and gently patted the hobbit's head. Because we're all just happy enough to be alive.
It's true. I honestly thought I was going to my death when I left you behind,
Bard admitted, his face dropping slightly as the first hint of distress showed itself.
It was a big surprise when I woke up to Beorn standing over me in its other form. For a moment I even thought it was the afterlife. Then I saw Tariel on his back and realized he was trying to save us.
He did save my life, Tariel confirmed, smiling a soft and warm smile in Beorn's direction. I fell unconscious in the middle of battle thanks to my little head wound. Since we were outnumbered, Beorn carried me on his back and outran the wraiths, even though his arm was greatly injured. It's why I lost it, the shapeshifter admitted, waving a hand over where his arm used to be. I mangled it so badly that they couldn't save it.
It was the same thing with my foot,
Bard added, lifting his footless leg up to show.
Bastard ran a blade straight through it. The healer cut it off to save the rest of my leg.
What of you, Bilbo? Did you manage to destroy the ring? Tariel asked, tilting her head to the side. Bilbo shook his head as bitterness clawed at his heart.
No, I couldn't escape them, so I gave it to that scavenger that was following us. So everything you three endured, it was all for nothing. I failed to destroy the ring.
The elf clucked her tongue and shook her head. No, you kept the ring from Sauron, and that is what matters most. You did well, Bilbo. The hobbit disagreed. He couldn't understand how his friends could be so forgiving when he had messed up so horribly.
How can none of you be angry? This was my entire fault. I should have never allowed any of you to come with me. And there he goes again, being stupid,
Bard said, rolling his eyes and collapsing back against his mountain of pillows. Manny, last time I checked, we all went into this willingly. The shapeshifter pointed out, tugging lightly on one of Bilbo's braids. You didn't force us to come. You didn't even want us to come because you wanted to protect us. We made the choice to go, and we accept responsibility for our actions. Besides, none of this has to ruin our lives, Tariel added, still smiling serenely. I can still hear better than any being around, so fighting won't be a problem, and my hair will grow back in time, as will my scars heal. I'm a shapeshifter, Manny. I know how to accommodate a physical weakness, Beorn agreed, grinning with his fangs exposed.
And I'm a fisherman,
Bard reminded him, pushing some of his curls out of his face.
That doesn't really involve a lot of walking.
He looked between the three of them and marveled at the strength that each of them had. They had survived so much, from a war to facing their possible death, to losing something irreplaceable, and yet they still could smile and laugh like it was nothing. He had not survived half of what they did, and was a broken mess most of the time. Amazing. They're simply amazing. Oh, Erebor, I don't deserve to know them, let alone call them friends. He closed his eyes to block back another wave of tears. He had no words to describe his gratitude and guilt, self-loathing and love. He was positive that he was going to spend the rest of his life trying to be worthy of their friendship because he sure wasn't now. I'm going to fix this. I promise I'm going to help make this better. He vowed to himself before taking in a shaky breath. I won't wallow in my guilt. Not this time. Not when I may be dying. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to make this right. So what happened after we separated? Did you get away from the wraiths? Bard asked, oblivious to his thoughts. Tariel snorted. Obviously, he's here now, isn't he? Bilbo shook his head slowly. No, I didn't escape. They captured me and took me to Mordor. It was there that Thorin and Thranduil and Dane saved me. Without them, I would still be Sauron's prisoner. Bard's eyes went wide, while Tariel frowned and Beorn growled. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? The man asked, scanning him over for injuries. I'm fine. They didn't hurt me, he reassured, deliberately leaving out that he had been sick and delusional most of the time. I'm just angry and disappointed I didn't get to destroy the ring. You'll get another chance. Now that everyone knows about it, they'll be looking for that scavenger, Tariel pointed out. Beorn nodded and gave him a knowing look. So don't start wallowing in guilt over that too. Oh, we're going to assume you're turning into a dwarf, added Bard, smirking. Bilbo rolled his eyes, but couldn't keep the small smile off his face. I'll try my best. I've been trying not to feel so guilty over everything I've messed up, and I've been trying to stop myself from recklessly throwing my life into dangerous situations. It has not been an easy change, but I'm trying my best. But you're trying, and that's a start, Tariel reassured, brushing back some of her hair as it fell into her face. It was only then that he realized that she wasn't wearing her usual braids. This is good news! Now we don't need to worry as much about you. So, what's the plan now? Are you going back to the mountain with your dwarves? Bard asked, rubbing at his unshaved jaw. Or home to your people? I'll return to Erebor for now, he confirmed, nodding. I have some matters to work out first. Once I do, I'll decide what to do from there. You'll be close by then, Beorn pointed out, grinning. We'll have to come and visit. Please do. Thorin has promised to apologize to Bard, and I know that others would like to see you too, he said, twisting his fingers in the blanket he still held. And I would like it too. Very much. Beorn muzzed his air, while Bard nudged his thigh with his stump. Even Tariel, who was not usually physically affectionate, reached over with Bard's help to pet his cheek with her slender hand. Not even Sauron could keep us away from you, reassured the elf, smiling her sweet smile that lit up her face. We faced battle together and food made by muckwood elves. That sort of bond can't be broken, Bard confirmed, nodding seriously before yelping as Tariel smacked him in the back of the head. I don't like a lot of people, but I like you, Bonnie. That's not going to stop anytime soon, Beorn said simply, scratching at his bare stomach with a single hand. Bilbo felt the urge to cry rise in him again, but this time it was not in sorrow. Bilbo stayed with his friends until the elf from earlier returned at sunset to take him back to the dwarves. He left with a promise that he would see them again soon. They, in turn, promised to visit him in Erebor once they were all fully healed. When he finally returned to the camp, the forest was pitch black, with the only source of light coming from the lanterns the elves provided. As soon as he walked into the camp, Thorin was marching over to him with a look of relief. Bilbo, you're finally back, the king said as he came to a stop in front of him. His eyes scanned over the hobbit before stopping on his face with a look of concern. How did it go? He sighed and rubbed his forehead. Good. It was good to see them again, but, prodded the dwarf, stepping closer to him. Bilbo sighed again and leaned forward to rest his forehead against Thorin's chest. Thorin, Bard lost a foot, he confessed, and felt the king stiffen. Beorn lost his left arm, and Tariel is now blind. All of them, they're so badly injured. And all because of me. Thorin raised his hands and rubbed the hobbit's shoulders in a soothing manner. Oh, Bilbo, I'm sorry that such a thing happened to them. Even I would not wish such harm on that man or an elf. I have to fix this, he whispered, as the memory of his friends, as they were before the journey, flashed through his mind. I just have to. Will you help me?
Of course. What did you have in mind?
The king replied without hesitation. I don't know, he admitted, lifting his head to look up at the dwarf. I can't give them back their limbs or sight, but I can't just sit back and do nothing either. Thorin nodded and dropped his hands to rub at Bilbo's arms.
Shh, Jivashel. We'll think of something, I promise.
Bilbo squinted up at his companion at the sound of the strange but familiar word. You've called me that before. What does it mean?
Roughly, it translates into the treasure of all treasures. That is what you are to me, my greatest treasure.
The king explained, giving him a small but honest smile that made him look decades younger. Though he knew Thorin didn't mean it, he felt a stab of annoyance at the idea of being compared to a bunch of stones and metal. Thorin, I'm not a thing, let alone a treasure, he said sternly, poking the dwarf in the chest. I don't appreciate being compared to something like the Arkenstone. Thorin blinked rapidly for a moment before his eyes grew wide.
What? No, you misunderstood me. I know you are not an item, and I would never dare treat you as one. The word is simply an expression of our love and devotion. Dwarves, we love differently from other races. We were created to value stones and minerals and what we could create from them above all else. That is what Mahal created us for, so we could pass on his lore and craft. Loving another with that same intensity is something that came later to us, after the Seven Fathers were awakened. It was never meant to be something we sought for in life, so it is a precious gift to find someone who can rival the very purpose for our existence.
So, you love me the way another dwarf would love his treasure and craft, Bilbo translated slowly as he tried to grasp the strange logic. Is that right?
Yes.
I never knew love was considered a gift among your people, he remarked, biting the inside of his cheek in thought.
It is the greatest gift of all,
the king bragged with a grin.
You know that we are an intense and passionate people. We can love with everything we are, but it is hard to focus that love on a person rather than a purpose in life. That is why finding your one is considered the greatest of gifts. It means you have met the person that makes you want to love them more than your duty to your creator.
Bilbo nodded as he thought over the dwarf's words. I always wondered why you lot put so much emphasis on finding a one. I mean, there are so many dwarves around, so I just couldn't understand why it would be a problem to find someone to love. It never occurred to me that the problem lied not with falling in love, but being able to love them completely.
And what of hobbits? How do hobbits love?
The dwarf wondered, rubbing his thumbs against the bare skin beneath his hands. He shrugged and tried not to focus on the tickling sensation on his arms. Loyally. Easily. We accept our love and take joy in it. We don't hoard it or obsess over it or cry about it. It simply exists, and we take it as it is. Thorin tilted his head to the side and stared at him with an open expression.
Was it easy for you, then, to love me?
Well, I'm still here, am I not? Bilbo pointed out, smirking. Thorin smirked back as he pulled him into a tight embrace.
Yes, you're still here with me,
the king muttered into his ear.
Thank you for never giving up on us.
He smiled and slid his own arms around the dwarf's waist. Yeah, well, you're all worth it. Bilbo didn't recall much of the remaining trip through Mirkwood and Lake Town. The only thing he really remembered was leaving the elves behind and buying passage in Lake Town. The town seemed the same as when they last passed through, and he couldn't help but take a small bit of joy that he was able to save something without it backfiring on him. But the thing he remembered best was the feeling of relief and joy as he stood before Erebor once more. There are dwarves here, he realized as he followed the others through the completely fixed gates of the city. They left some of his soldiers behind to guard it, replied the Gloin, who walked next to him. I think some dwarves from Erebor and the Iron Hills came too, to help. Bilbo's eyebrows shot up to his hairline. Erebor? But that's so far away! How could they get here so fast? Gloin gave him a look that one would give the village idiot. Burglar, it's been nearly 2 seasons since we proclaimed Erebor. That's more than enough time for the caravan to get there. It probably helped too that they weren't being chased by orcs or captured by elves, added Nori on Gloin's other side. He still didn't feel convinced. But that means they were traveling through winter to get here. How did they handle such conditions? Bilbo, say it with me. Dwarves, stressed the banker. The cold doesn't bother us like it does men and hobbits. Traveling during the season is not a problem. I wonder who came, mused Ori from Bilbo's other side. It couldn't have been any commoners or children. It had to be someone strong and important who could help rebuild the city. Ma! Mother! Bilbo and the others jumped at the sudden shouts behind. Before anyone could move, Fili and Kili were pushing them aside as they sprinted through the gates and up the stairs to where an unfamiliar dwarf stood. As he watched, Kili picked the shorter dwarf up into a hug and swung around in circles laughing before Fili forced him to stop. The blonde prince then threw his own arms around the dwarf and buried his face in their neck, while Kili stood back and grinned so wide it looked like it hurt. It's Princess Dis! Ori asked, his eyes going wide and his mouth dropping open. What is she doing here? I thought she would be staying in Ered Louis to help organize the move to Erebor. Guess she couldn't wait to see her boys, Gloin commented, shrugging his broad shoulders. Can't say I blame her. If I sent my son off to fight a dragon, I wouldn't waste time in getting back at him. Bilbo nodded slowly as he studied the female dwarf, who was now running her hands through both her son's hair. In his mind, he had always imagined Dis to look a great deal like a female version of Thorin. But looking at the princess now, he realized that he was very wrong. Though she shared an obvious resemblance to her brother, Dis was also clearly her own person. Her features were rounder and softer than Thorin's, and her blue eyes much wider and deeper set in her skull. Her thick black hair was neatly pulled back in braids that circled the base of her head like coiled ropes. Her beard was neatly trimmed and braided, and her skin a few shades darker than Thorin and Fili. As she moved her hands and arms in sharp gestures, he realized it was with the same smooth grace he had seen in Fili. She looks like Kili, he realized, and the knowledge made his heart soften towards her. But that scowl is all Thorin. The king in question had also joined his nephews in greeting his sister, though they didn't hug. Thorin did gently headbutt Dis while she clasped his shoulder and face with a grip that made her fingers turn white. In turn, Thorin muttered something to her that not even his sharp ears could catch, and then patted his sister's shoulder with a tenderness he had only ever seen the king give his nephews. They really missed each other, he thought, and it made him smile to see how happy they were to be together again. The last time around, Dis only had 3 graves to welcome her home. But now she had her sons and brother, and she would never spend her days crying again. Looks like the princess isn't the only one here, Nori commented in a cool tone that drew all their attention. What are you talking about? Who else is here? Ori asked his brother. The thief silently pointed further past the royal dwarves and to the group of tall and familiar visitors walking over to them. When Bilbo realized who they were, his eyes went wide and he took a step back in shock. Gandalf, Radagast, Lord Elrond? What are they doing here? He murmured to himself. He got his answer soon enough, as all 3 of the visitors focused their unwavering gazes on him.
Bilbo,
Gandalf called, drawing everyone's attention to himself.
I believe that we have found the solution to your problem.